Hello. 2 weeks ago, I became quite sick. I was on a cruise and I started coughing up blood. I was very concerned because this is usually an indication that I've developed pneumonia. I have a chronic infection in my lungs called Pseudomonas. From time to time, this acts up and I get very, very sick and I need IV antibiotics. Since I was on the cruise, I did not want to go to the medical facility and then be sent home because I need IV antibiotics. Instead, I had taken along oral antibiotics. I knew these were not the right antibiotics for my infection, but I also knew if I took the oral antibiotics, it would help knock down the infection just enough to keep me well enough to be able to endure the rest of my cruise. I took the antibiotics for about a week. It got me somewhat better. I stopped coughing up blood after 4 days, which was a blessing. But I could tell I was still sick and this was not curing my infection. So now it's been a week since stopping the antibiotics. So it's been 2 weeks since I first started coughing up the blood. And today I have an appointment with my pulmonologist, that's my lung doctor. And I'm really hoping and praying he can prescribe me IV antibiotics and I can get the IV antibiotics and start feeling better very quickly. This weekend, I was extremely sick. I developed a fever and shaking chills and sweating profusely, and I just felt absolutely awful. And I thought about going to the hospital, going to the emergency department to getting IV antibiotics, but I thought, no, that never goes well. If you know anything about having a chronic infection, usually your white blood cell count does not elevate or only elevates just a little bit, and the emergency department does not consider that to be an emergency. They will sometimes give me antibiotics. Sometimes they will just send me home and tell me to follow up with my doctor. If they do give me antibiotics, I'm admitted for a couple days, the infection gets better, then they send me home on oral antibiotics. Now, if you know anything about Pseudomonas, the only antibiotics that will really work against the infection are IV antibiotics. There is one oral drug, but I get really, really sick on that, so that's off the table. So I need to get IV antibiotics, and the hospital does not like prescribing IV antibiotics. It's always a big battle, and they usually just say, oh, it's okay, take this oral antibiotic, which is the wrong antibiotic. It doesn't get rid of my infection. And then what happens is I come home, I start taking the oral antibiotic, and immediately the infection comes right back. Then I have to either decide, go back to the emergency department, which they don't like that if you come back, or try to get an appointment with my pulmonologist. So I decided to try to skip all that and just go straight to my pulmonologist and hope and pray he prescribes IV antibiotics. And hopefully they get through with the pharmacy and I can get them delivered to my home very quickly. Because like I said, I'm not feeling that great. And each day I just feel a little bit worse. So I'm really hoping and praying this works out, and I need to go because it's time for my doctor's appointment. So see you later. Bye-bye. Hello. I have returned from my doctor's appointment. It was quite an ordeal. First of all, when I arrived at my appointment, I could tell the doctor was not in the office. The waiting room was very full of patients, and this always indicates the doctor is not there. If you want to know about my doctor, he works at the hospital. He works in the intensive care unit, and so usually he works in the morning at the hospital, and then about 3 o'clock, he comes over to the clinic and does clinic appointments from 3 to 5. That's how it's supposed to work, but sometimes he runs late at the hospital. And today he was running late at the hospital. So I was a little bit disappointed because, like I said, I'm not feeling that great. And I really did not want to hang out in the waiting room all day. But thankfully, they decided to take me back, do my vitals. And after waiting over an hour, the nurse came in and said, I'm going to start your appointment, and hopefully the doctor comes while I'm doing your appointment. So she starts my appointment and she asks me why I'm there. I explain I've been coughing up blood. It's a reinfection of my chronic infection that I have. It's flaring up and I really need IV antibiotics. She wasn't sure if she could do this. She looked at some notes previously from the doctor and she saw that he has ordered IV antibiotics. So then she thought maybe she could do that. She tried texting the doctor. She did not get a response from the doctor. She left and she waited a little while for the doctor to come in. He never came, so he must have been very, very busy at the hospital. So she came back and she decided she was going to prescribe me the IV antibiotics. Now, there was an issue the last time I got IV antibiotics. The dosing was not right. The dosing was 500 milligrams twice a day, and this was not strong enough. I could tell my infection never really cleared up. And I know previously that we have done 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. So to give you a comparison, I was on 1 gram per day, and the new dosing should really be 3 grams per day to get rid of the infection. So I explained this to her and I said, previously we've had this other dosing and I'm not sure why the last time it was less, but it did not clear up the infection because now the infection has come right back. She looked and did some research herself and she said, oh my goodness, you are right. Your infection does need 1 gram every 8 hours. And so I was very happy that she decided to increase my dosage. And then she wasn't sure how many days to give me, and we almost always do 15 days for antibiotics. Then we do a reassessment and see if I need more antibiotics. Sometimes 15 days is enough to get rid of the infection, and sometimes I need 30 days. So I was very happy and very grateful. She agreed to the higher dosing and she prescribed it for 15 days. And then she sent that off to the pharmacy. So hopefully that will work out with the pharmacy. We always have issues getting IV antibiotics from the pharmacy because unlike regular antibiotics where you send it to your pharmacy, they fill it and you come and pick it up, intravenous antibiotics require that you get additional documentation from the doctor. They have to be mixed up by an infusion company and then sent out. And this never goes well. I mean, I shouldn't say that. A couple times it has gone well, but anytime my doctor tries to do it, they always need extra paperwork. My doctor's office does not know how to do the paperwork. It's always a big fiasco, and I'm always on the phone going, did you send that paperwork? No. Well, can you send it? Okay. And then I have to call the infusion company. Did you receive it? No. Well, can you check your faxes? Maybe you got it. So I always have to play phone tag and try to get a hold of people and just run back and forth trying to get all this resolved. So I'm really hoping and praying that with these IV antibiotics, they get submitted correctly, and I get them very soon because, like I said, I'm not feeling that well, and I just want to be done with this infection. I've already been sick for 2 weeks, and this is usually kind of my breaking point. I don't do well much after 2 weeks because the infection grows and grows and grows and starts making me very, very sick. And I can tell that's exactly what it's doing. So I'm hoping and praying I get these antibiotics and get them quickly. And soon I will be on the path to better health. So that's a bit of an update. Bye for now. Hello. I have been really, really sick. Last night I spiked a fever and I got very little sleep. Oh, I was up all night with shaking chills and then profuse sweating. And I kept going back and forth between shaking chills and sweating. And my body feels like it's on fire. My joints hurt and I have a severe headache. I am so tired, and I'm fighting really hard to not go to the hospital. My IV antibiotics have been requested, and I keep talking to my pharmacist, and they say they have not received some of the paperwork from the doctor. I keep calling the pharmacist and calling the doctor's office and trying to get everything resolved, but there just seems to be a communication issue. So I'm really praying and hoping this gets resolved quickly because I feel so horrible. I did have blood work done the same day I went to the doctor. The blood work resulted that I have a slightly elevated white blood cell count. And when I mean slightly, the white blood cell count cutoff was 10.8, and my white blood cells are 10.9. So it's just a tiny bit elevated. If I go to the emergency department, if I go to the emergency department, they won't even consider that to be elevated white blood cell count. They also did a C-reactive protein, which measures inflammation, and that was really high. The cutoff for the high level for the C-reactive protein was 10. My levels were 54, so it's significantly elevated. This just means that my body is fighting a lot and it has a lot of inflammation, which would make sense because I've been sick for a couple weeks. So I just keep hoping that the antibiotic gets processed soon and it gets shipped to me, because I'm not sure how much longer I can fight this off here at home without getting IV antibiotics. So that's a bit of an update. Bye for now. Hello. After waiting 10 days, my IV antibiotics have arrived. I am so excited. I can finally breathe a sigh of relief and be assured I will not have to go to the emergency department. These IV antibiotics should help clear up my infection and hopefully get me on the path to better health very soon. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.